Hello! Now, if you want to practice speaking a foreign language, there are hundreds, maybe thousands, of AI language tutor chatbots that you could use. And some are much better than others, but most of the good ones charge a monthly subscription. So I wanted to find out, if you just want conversation practice, can you use ChatGPT in voice mode, which is free? Is it just the same as using one of the chatbots that's dedicated to language learning? I decided to compare ChatGPT voice mode with an app called Langua, which is the best AI tutor app that I've found so far. I'll also compare it to an app that I run, which uses AI in a different way than for a chatbot. I'll put links in the description for all the apps that I mention. First, I tested it in Spanish, which is a language that I have a fairly high level in. Now, I should point out that you should only bother using an AI chatbot if you have at least a lower intermediate level in the language. If you're a beginner, use an app like Busuu, where you can get properly structured lessons. First, I need to explain the distinction between the two voice modes on ChatGPT, standard and advanced. Standard is what you get on the free plan, and advanced is what you get on the paid-for plus plan. If you want to practice English, the standard voice does sound like an authentic American accent, so that's fine. But with standard voice mode, you're going to hear any non-English language spoken with a slightly American accent, as if someone from the US has learnt that language. Now, obviously, that's not great if you're trying to perfect your pronunciation. But if your main goal is your speaking and you don't care so much about the authenticity of what you're hearing, maybe standard voice mode is enough. So now let's get into the actual conversation. The type of conversation you could have seemed the same for standard or advanced voice mode, so for free or paid. But one very important piece of advice, you need to ask it to role play. Don't just start talking to it and expect it to reply like a friend. Its default is information mode, like a living Wikipedia page, where it gives long answers full of generic, bland information. Start by saying something like, I want to role play a conversation in language where you play the role of my friend. I want to talk about topic. With that prompt, the conversation flows much better and feels just about natural enough. As well as testing this in Spanish, which is a language I speak well, I also tested it in French, where my speaking level is probably lower intermediate, because I wanted to see what the experience was like in a language that you're less confident with. To be honest, I was surprised how well the conversation flowed. It gave me a lot of confidence and made me feel I was better at French than I thought. If you are lower level in a language, you could mention in the prompt at the beginning that your level is low. Now let's compare that to what you might get with a chatbot that's designed for language practice. Now, I should say that many of the language chatbots are just using ChatGPT as the basis for the chatbot, but they've layered a few other features on top of it to make it more useful. As a comparison, I'm going to talk about Langua, which, after testing a lot of language chatbots, is the one that I think is most useful. With ChatGPT, you have to choose between voice mode or text mode, but in a chatbot designed for language learning, you can do both at the same time. Here's how it looks in Langua. You can see the text appear on the screen as you're talking. In ChatGPT, you can't see the text when you're in voice mode. In Langua, you can also click words and save them to a vocabulary list in the app, which is really useful. One of the biggest advantages for me is that an app designed for language practice does a really nice job of presenting the mistakes and corrections. Now, those corrections are not always 100% accurate, but that's a separate issue. You could ask ChatGPT to go back and tell you about mistakes you made, but it'll present it out of context in a long and wordy way where it's not so obvious what's changed. In a language chatbot, you can click to reveal the corrections for each message as you say it. And in a lot of them, but definitely not all, the corrections are displayed in a really easy to view way. Here's how it looks in Langua, for example, and how it looks in the app that I run, which I'll say more about in a minute. However, TalkPal, for example, haven't put much effort into displaying corrections. This is how they do it. It's more similar to ChatGPT. Now, let's weigh up the costs. If you're already paying $20 a month for ChatGPT Plus, and all you want is conversation practice, no extras, do your language practice there. If you're not paying for ChatGPT, I think it is worth paying for a language practice chatbot. Langua also costs $20 a month, but you get extra features which aren't available in ChatGPT. You can see my other video about Langua if you want to learn more about its features. Or if you don't want to spend anything, you could still get conversation practice with standard voice mode on ChatGPT. The accent will be slightly unnatural, but at least you'll be speaking. But before you decide what to do, here are a few other options for you. Now, if you're a bit cynical about having a fake conversation with a pretend human, there is an app that just cuts to the chase and gives you a random topic to talk about for 1 minute. This is an app that was developed by me and my co-founder. And when it comes to speaking practice in the app, the focus is on a quick and easy 1 minute of speaking per day, instead of extended conversation, which might be hard to find time for on a regular basis. I personally feel that 1 minute of speaking a day is more useful than 15 minutes once a week. Also, this app focuses more on you trying again and improving your mistakes the second time round. With a conversational chatbot, sometimes it's too easy to let the conversation flow on without really paying attention to the mistakes you made. But this app encourages you to try again and do better the second time round. The other thing you'll find in this app is recordings of real human native speakers, because a downside of always listening to an AI voice is that it's much easier to understand than the voices you'll hear in the real world. But this app lets you hear native speakers with a real variety of accents. On the flip side of that, if you love talking to pretend humans and you want to look at a semi-realistic avatar while you do it, you could try Practica or Call Annie, which are language chatbots that offer exactly that. It's not my thing personally, but it probably does appeal to some people. Also, the owner of an app called Scena emailed me recently, and they also have a lot of cartoony avatars, so you may want to check that out too. So I would say if you're serious about language learning, and you're already several minutes into a video about it, so I'm going to say you're pretty serious, then I think it's worth paying something for an app that's dedicated to language learning. Often in life, you do have to pay for something that's good quality and worthwhile. And I also think that making that commitment to paying for something is all part of what keeps you motivated to practice. But if you really don't have any money to spare, I do think you can achieve a lot with the free standard voice mode on ChatGPT.